Apologies to everyone, but I am not Chamber President Alan Rasmussen. I'm Mike Herron, Alan's stuntman and body double. It's also known as President-elect of your Chamber Board. I want to welcome you all to the Salem Chamber Forum Speaker Series Luncheon, sponsored today by Aldrich CPAs and Advisors and presented all season long by Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions. Please join me in a prayerful moment of reflection. We take this moment to pray and reflect, each in our way, on our lives and on this moment. We are thankful for the meal before us, for the hands that prepared it, and for those who serve it. We are grateful for this day, for its blessings, its opportunities, and even for its challenges. May we lend each other strength and guidance as fellow leaders within the Salem community. May we be deeply driven to always give our best and have courage to rise and meet the challenges we face. Amen. Okay, today we will be treated to a special performance of the Star-Spangled Banner by the Blanchette Catholic School Choir. Following the national anthem, please retake your seat and enjoy a holiday carol performed by the choir. Would everyone please stand for the national anthem?
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the
Thank you again to the Blanchette Choir. That was fantastic. I was a choir kid all through school, mostly so I could get out of school to come to things like this, but you guys clearly do it for the singing. Beautiful. Blanchette also partners with the Salem Chamber to provide ground transportation for our Leadership Salem cohort each month. So thank you again to Blanchette. It's now my honor to introduce the dignitaries in attendance today, beginning with our elected officials. First, I would like to recognize and hold your applause to the end here, Salem City Councilor Julie Hoy and Kaiser City Councilor Sarita Cross. And I don't know if there were any others that we missed, but thank you. Next, I would like to thank past presidents of the Salem Chamber, Kathy Gordon, Laura Dorn, and Kurt Arthur. And then current board members in attendance, Brandon Blair, Christy Witzke, Ted Ferry, Rich Duncan, Roger Hoy, Randy Sutton, Julie Foscoli, Kathy Gordon, Katya Mendez, Ryan Dempster, Laura Dorn, and myself. There's two other groups of people that I actually want to recognize. If you've joined the chamber, your company has joined the chamber in the last 3 months, would you please raise your hand? Are there any here? How about the last 9 months? Anyone within the last 9 months? We got one over here. Anyone within the calendar year of 2023? Okay, so we had all these folks, and then we see one over here. The board thanks you for your investment of your time and your money in this organization. Okay, thank you. Second group I want to recognize is who here is at your very first Chamber Forum Luncheon? Who's attending their first Forum Luncheon? Awesome. Special welcome to all of you, and I hope to see you all next month at the Chamber Forum Luncheon again. Thank you for coming. Okay, for any membership organization to thrive, the membership must be engaged. The Salem Chamber is fortunate to have such an engaged membership. We want to thank again Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions for their ongoing commitment to the Forum Lunch series. This next part is weird for me. I met TJ Sullivan when we were 12 years old as 7th graders. So think of everything you know about TJ Sullivan and everything you know about 12-year-old boys and put that together. You've come a long way, baby. Coming up to share a bit about Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions and then introduce the McLaren Leadership Foundation, please join me in welcoming Tori John Sullivan.
On the flip side, I knew Mike when he was 12. So combine what you know about Mike and a 12-year-old, and they did not have a paddle big enough at Salem Academy for us. Well, I was reflecting on my way in here. I've been coming to Forum Lunches for 25 years. And for you young pups in the audience, back in my day, we didn't have a fancy conference center to come to. We had the Red Lion. And it was either red or were there any lions, so I don't know. And the room was either hot or cold depending on what season you were in. And the food was always a casserole that was made up of all the leftovers from the prior month. So enjoy what you've got. I'm sure in 20 years it'll be even better. If you think about your firm, if you're not growing in size, and if the average age of your firm is not getting younger, then your firm is dying. And that's why I'm proud of the Chamber bringing this Young Professional series to us through the Chamber, because it's important to find out so that you can help your firm get younger. At Hagen Hamilton, I came in today, there was a company-wide email that said we were hiring another person. Now, since I started in May of 22, this makes the 105th person that we've hired, which is pretty impressive, I think. And I will tell you, if you go to any of our 6 locations, when you walk in, you will see energy and you'll hear laughter. And that's because we have been having fun and winning. And that's what happens when you grow and you get younger. And so I just would like to thank Chad Neal as part of that group. Chad joined us this last year. And the thing I've learned about Chad is that everybody knows Chad. And that's great because we're in a relationship business. And so it's nice having somebody else that you can ask, hey, do you know this person? Because I'm trying to get to this account, and Chad inevitably knows who that person is. So Chad's been a great addition to our team. And we look forward to continuing to serve the Salem community. And it's my honor, I get to introduce Kathy Gordon. Kathy is one of my favorite people of all time because she is as brilliant as she is elegant, and she was a great chamber president, and she has transitioned her role into the McLaren Leadership Foundation, and so there should be wild applause for Kathy Gordon. Wild applause. I love you more.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Oh, gosh. TJ, embarrass me. My head's so big now. Thank you, TJ. The McLaren Leadership Foundation is very proud to be the leadership and workforce development arm of the Salem Chamber. Our role as a foundation is to develop community-minded leaders for thoughtful service within the companies and for civic and nonprofit service. In addition to hosting a yearly Leadership Salem cohort and the annual Crystal Apple Awards, which recognize excellence in education, the McLaren Leadership Foundation is extremely proud of our Emerging Leaders programming. As you will witness today, our next generation of workforce contributors are already doing big things within the companies and organizations that they serve. Should you wish to learn more about the McLaren Leadership Foundation or the Emerging Leaders Program, please connect with one of the individuals who are now standing, and that includes McLaren Foundation Program Manager Katie Kostick, Sarah No, Grayson Ames, or Bryant Malone. Are you guys standing? I don't see you. Stand up. There. Okay. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Now I wish to introduce today's monthly forum luncheon sponsor, our friends at Aldrich CPAs and Advisors. This may be a firm I know a little bit about, so it's a special honor to be able to introduce them. I just retired from there after 32 years at Aldrich, and it was very much my home for those 32 years. Organizations of all types have a greater need for audit and assurance services. From a construction company seeking credit to a nonprofit asking donors for support, quality financial statements are required for more informed decision-making. The Aldrich professional team values quality over risk. Aldrich offers reliable financial information for decision makers. They feature forward-thinking investments in technology such as database audit and risk control systems, keeping the firm ahead of the curve with industry best practices. Reliable and accessible, Aldrich CPAs and Advisors pride themselves on maintaining the highest of standards in the accounting and investment field. Join me in welcoming today's monthly forum sponsor, Aldrich CPAs and Advisors, and my dear friend and partner, Daryl Knox.
Good afternoon. Today the Salem Chamber is showcasing an engaged group of presenters who each just happen to be within the under 40 years of age emerging leaders workforce. Today we will gain insight into the strengths and desires of today's emerging leaders, as well as how to recruit, retain, and develop the next generation of young professionals into our future business owners and community leaders. At Aldrich CPAs and Advisors, we recognize the unique skills our next generation of leaders bring to both our clients and our internal company culture. This year, our firm celebrated our 50th anniversary since Ken Aldrich founded the firm right here in Salem. As we reflect on the importance of empowering emerging leaders, I'm reminded of the legacy of Ken Aldrich, Steve Tatone, and others, Kathy included, who have consistently grown young professionals into leaders who are committed to improving the lives of our clients, our people, and our communities. The desire to help our clients achieve their goals has led our firm to grow and evolve over the past 50 years to provide a holistic approach to financial services. We now have 9 offices in several western states and nearly 500 employees worldwide. Aldrich Wealth, our wealth management firm, has nearly $5 billion of assets under management. Aldrich Capital was formed to facilitate business sales and acquisitions, and recently we began to offer business valuation services. There's a flat sheet on your table that contains more information about Aldrich, front and back. But before I proceed any further, I would like to just publicly thank Kathy again for her many years representing Aldrich and her service to the Salem community. As she mentioned, Kathy is one of our retired partners, past president of the Salem Chamber, so please give her another round of applause. We're thrilled to be partnering with the Salem Chamber and Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions in bringing this program to our audience at the Salem Convention Center, and also those who are watching on the Salem Chamber's YouTube and social channels. Every panel needs a skilled moderator, a gifted speaker who understands how to keep topics lively and engaging for those in attendance. And today we're honored to have Ellen Yin serving in the role of panel host. Ellen is the founder and host of Cubicle to CEO, a top 100 business podcast and free weekly newsletter asking successful founders the business questions you simply can't just Google. Her own Cubicle to CEO journey began with quitting her corporate job without a backup plan and led to bootstrapping a $300 freelance project into millions in revenue by age 29. Ellen's work has been featured in Times Square, Forbes, Yahoo Finance, The Today Show, and more. Ellen is also an angel investor and advisor for buzzy consumer brands like Soursop Nutrition, Latza, and fintech platform Cherub, which connects founders to funders. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm Salem Chamber welcome to Ellen Yin, who will introduce our full panel of emerging leaders.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having us. I'm really extra thrilled for you to meet all of the amazing panelists, my peers, who I'm so honored to share the stage with. So I'll just call them up right now, each one by one. So first we have Alex Ferry from Ferry Insurance, a State Farm agency. And then we have, feel free to applause. And then we have Katie Arnold of Rich Duncan Construction. And then Gabby Northrop of Doneth and Sturdivant Advisors. Jazmin Hayworth of Build Your Hype. And Ray White of Salem Health. All right, so as introduced, we are here today to talk about the emerging leader workforce, professionals under 40, and the unique strengths they bring to the workforce, as well as how employers can think about attracting, retaining, and really leveraging the amazing skill set of these wonderful people on stage, as well as peers like them. Okay, so my first question for you all is, oh, and by the way, I know I just gave a very brief introduction, but if any of you are curious for their full bios, it is on the printout on your table if you would like to take a look. All right, so I'm gonna start with you, Alex, and we'll just go down the line here, or feel free to pop in if you have something you'd like to share. What unique skills do you feel you bring to the workplace as an emerging leader, and how have you leveraged that to improve either the business you work for or the business that you're building?
Yes, thank you, Ellen. My answer would probably be what I bring is processes and competitiveness. I think that processes, especially in all industries and walks of life, are pretty important. But implementing them and then having people that can duplicate those processes is really what I've found to be something I'm really good at. Competitiveness kind of speaks for itself. I'm a hate to lose kind of guy. For those of you that know the hate to lose, love to win. Yeah, Katie knows. Yeah.
I do have a question there. I think I can relate to you as a fellow business owner, and sometimes so much of what we have built over the years lives in our head, right? And when that institutional knowledge leaves us, it can be really challenging if you don't have those processes and those work instructions or SOPs in place. So I'm curious, for anyone in the audience who may be finding themselves in that situation where everything they have in terms of how their business runs is literally stored in their head, how have you found is a really effective way to get those processes from your brain onto paper or some sort of system that you can then delegate to your employees?
Yeah, I think you have to start and make sure that they are something that can be duplicated. Some processes only you as a business owner can do, but you have to find the ones that you can teach someone else how to do. And then really all it is writing it down and then giving a specific job description for how people can implement those processes themselves.
Awesome. Katie, what about you? What's your unique superpower as an emerging leader?
I think for me, it's building connections. So that's always been a strong place for me to be able to see where people can connect. So when I first started with Rich Duncan, it was important to me to get to know everyone on a personal level, not just in the office, but in the field, and know what makes them tick and what they were looking for. And I think that's been strong for us to be able to see what other people value and what we can do for them.
What surprised you most while you were, on the ground with your fellow colleagues, learning about roles that you may not play in day to day?
Probably how dirty the job is. So yeah, had to give myself a pair of boots to get out there. But I like going out to the sites and being able to see what they're really doing. I think that was a huge opportunity for me to be able to learn about the industry, because when I started, I'd never been in construction before. So being able to see that firsthand, I could start to understand what they were going through.
I love that. Connection is so key. Gabby, you're also really great at connecting. What else do you feel you bring to the table?
I think I always try to remember to care about the who more than the what, whether it's on my emerging leaders team or my team at work. I always try to be as generous as possible and let my team know that I couldn't do what I do without them. So whether it's, making sure that I'm showing appreciation by bringing Alex a coffee when I get to emerging leaders because I know he worked hard that month, or writing an encouragement letter, because words go really far. I think that's kind of what I try to focus on.
I actually remember that. One of my earliest memories of Gabby was meeting her in our Leadership Salem cohort last year, and I remember she would always come up and be like, oh, is there any, if I'm going to Starbucks, is there a drink order I can get you? And I just thought that was so generous. So that really speaks to your heart and putting it into practice. Jazz, what about you?
Is this thing on? All right. Hey. Okay. I think what I bring, building relationships is so important, and that's something that I love to do. I spend the time with people and just connect. I think that's something really big. And I am who I am. I think that's my thing. I live out loud. I'm not scared to live out loud. And really be the first. I want someone to share my story, and I want them for it to resonate with them and to empower them, for them to aspire to really implement and activate and go and do their thing. So my biggest focus is empowering that person in front of me to do what they want to do and go for it.
I love that. That's so encouraging. And Ray, what about you?
Yeah, I believe my superpowers are empathy and inclusion. In the role that I play as a supervisor at the hospital for healthcare IT, it's really important that I consider the people who are involved in the work. And then IT space, some people think is like the black box. It's like, I don't know what's going on in that building over there, but whatever they do, the output is gonna help me and my business run well. And so my ability is to be able to understand the people who are part of that work, how they are involved, and make sure that they're in part of the decisions that are being made, so we can have a great system with the processes that we develop at the hospital.
I'm curious, what would you say is the easiest way for anyone to practice empathy in the workforce?
Yeah, listening is one of the main ways. The fact that we both have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So how do we leverage that to the best of our ability to hear other people and their perspectives and how they see the world and how they see the work? Because knowing that can help benefit you in the work that you are doing and can help ensure that what they're involved with is a part of the greater outcome that we're striving towards together.
Yes, absolutely. I remember when we were just sitting a moment ago, we were all kind of agreeing that the way that we view work and our careers may look a little bit different than other generations before us or even other generations following us. And so I wanted to get your hot take, your perspective on how you feel our age group of under 40 professionals and emerging leaders view work differently, like I said, than colleagues of other generations. And more specifically, what is a perspective that you wish more people were aware of? For example, I know collaboration over competition is a big theme among our peers. If one of you would like to expand on that first, and then we can see who else wants to jump in with an insight.
Has anybody seen Transformers? Anybody? The latest ones, not, the cartoons are dope too. But there is a theme in Transformers, there's more to you than meets the eye. And I feel like that has been a really great theme, at least for me, to know that I'm more than my work or more than what I produce. There's a lot to me that I want other people to recognize too. So as I show up and try to show up as my authentic self, I'm also considering other people, how they want to show up too. And that makes a great work flourish, that makes a great team. So there's more to us than meets the eye.
That also reminds me of the quote, one of my favorite quotes, and I can't remember who said this, so I apologize for not giving credit, but when you allow yourself to be seen, especially your vulnerabilities, you actually make others feel seen. So I think that's a great perspective to have. Yeah, Jazmin.
Something that's really big to me that I really live by is if you're gifted the vision, you're gifted the resources to make it happen. And I think we have all these seeds of doubt in our head that really, we're scared. We're scared to make that move. We're scared to activate. Oh, I'll just wait for my kids to get older. Oh, I'll just wait for the right time. Or, no, I can't do it. What's going to happen? What if I'm poor? What if I don't have a roof over my head? All these things, and I think we end up self-paralyzing ourselves, and we don't go for it. You've heard that term YOLO, right? We only live once, and it's short. We've seen that, even more so, I feel like, today. And so I'm a big believer with going for it. If you have that vision, you have that gift of that vision, then you have the gift of the resources to make it happen. And so it really resonates with me, and I wish that more people would believe in themselves, because I believe in you. I'm cheering you on. I'll cheer you on.
Mic drop. Do you see why Jazmin is now your hype girl? All right, Gabby, go for it.
I think while our generation has the ability to think linearly, we also are really driven by our experiences. And I feel like especially, coming out of COVID, our age group really thought about, do we want to do this job we're doing? Do we need to switch to something else? Because now's the time to do it, and we're not afraid to do it. I think that, it used to be you go to college, you get this degree, you go work in that field, you do your thing until it's time to retire. But now it's like the opportunities are endless. And I think there is a fear piece that we don't necessarily, that doesn't scare us as much as maybe the older generation had that fear.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious, of all of us here on this panel even, how many of you currently work in a field that is directly tied to what you went to school to study? I think that speaks for itself. Okay, Alex, maybe 50-50. That's fair. Okay.
My teacher always moved me as if I wasn't going to talk to the person next to me, so.
You were exhibiting life skills. I love that.
Well, and I think to piggyback off of what Gabby's saying too, it's that our generation likes to feel like we have purpose. And, same thing, I was in the healthcare field for 15 years, and it just didn't feel right anymore. And I stumbled into this role in construction, but it felt like I had purpose and that people were behind me, and the culture is what drove me to that space. And that's what made me want to participate in that space. So you gotta show people that the culture that you have in your organization and the purpose that you can give them, and that's how you're gonna get those key employees.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people, both on stage and in this room, can relate to recognizing that there are many vehicles that can take us to a similar place or to allow us to fulfill our talents and to give back. But it's really about the the culture fit, I think, ultimately. And I think that exemplifies, why you've done such a great job at the work that you do. Alex?
Katie kind of stole mine a little bit, but I guess, yeah, I know. Beyond that, like culture is obviously really important, but I think generations before us, there were things that were a lot easier to motivate people, whether it's money or PTO, security, whereas our generation, we want to be happy. And it's like, we want to find, we've all shared purpose, and I think you have to figure out what motivates each person individually, and if they fit for your organization, great. If they don't, that's also okay. It's better to find that out on the front end than get 6 months into it, and then they're like, actually, I don't enjoy this at all. And then it's like, now you both lost 6 months of an employee. So that would be kind of what I would see in it.
How do you have those honest conversations to be able to discern that more quickly? So when you're working with employees and maybe some are shyer to voice dissatisfaction or to voice that the role isn't a perfect fit, how do you build into your work structure or culture an opportunity for those employees to be able to find either a better fit role within your organization or to exit more quickly if it's just not a good fit?
Yeah, great question. I think something we've done a good job of is we actually talk people out of coming to work for our office before they come work for us, which doesn't always fare well when you're trying to hire people, but it really does lead to long-term team members that you can count on. And then obviously you still want to check in with people. You still want to coach and add value in different settings.
That's interesting. It's like that, the less, what is it, kind of like in relationships, like the less you're chasing after, the more people want to show why they're a good fit. I love that. Yes, Ray, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I do appreciate that. I've seen and heard a lot in the hiring stages to be real and authentic, saying this is what the work is, this is what it's about. We hope that you can see you in this, but if not, that's okay. And one of the great things about my role as a supervisor is getting the ability to engage and understand people and where they want to go and be that open door, if you will, especially virtually, to say, hey, if this is not it, how can I help you find the next thing? And I'm not their parent, but I want to be a guide and a coach to support them in that. So being willing to say, it's okay if this isn't it, let's find you something that can be it, and everybody could be happy moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thought to add to this before we move on to the next question. I don't know if Dr. K is here today, but Dr. K, many of you know, fellow chamber member. One of the things that we were talking about at the table right before we came on, a recent podcast episode that Dr. K did with Tom, if any of you listened into the most recent episode, that really stood out to me. And I apologize again if I misquote her, but basically she was saying how with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, so I think most of us here on stage are millennials, but like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, the two generations even below us, she shared an interesting stat that the average person in those age groups are going to experience 5 to 6 careers over their lifespan, and that's not jobs, that's careers. So if you can imagine how broad and expansive that exploration can be for people in the up-and-coming workforce, I think it really just even adds another element to think of when you're attracting top talent to your teams. All right. What types of opportunities, speaking of attracting the right people, the best talent to your teams, what type of opportunities do you personally value most when it comes to career development? Can you share your favorite example of how your employer, or if you are the employer, how you've offered your employees support in this area? And I'm gonna switch things up. Gabby, I'm gonna come to you first.
I think I really value not the opportunities that necessarily add letters to the end of my name. I know it's really big in the career that I'm in to study and read a book and pass a test, and really I think anyone is capable of doing that, but I really value the opportunities where I get to build on myself as a person, because trust is the #1 thing in my industry. So if I can better my character, better who I am as a leader, better who I am as a friend, those are the opportunities that I look for. And I'm grateful to work for a company who, when I approached them about joining Leadership Salem, that they were all for it, because if I was passionate about, going and being in a room with people I wouldn't have necessarily been in unless I joined that program, like the Jim Sparkmans or the Zach Stones, I wouldn't have got to build those relationships. And I got to do that a lot earlier than most people my age, because I work for people that fed into that passion that I have.
That's amazing. And is that something that you would typically advocate for yourself for those types of opportunities, or do you feel like your employers have done something to kind of almost build that into the routine development of you as an employee?
I really struggled at the beginning of my career with, my degree not being in the field that I'm working in, and, finding my purpose in a piece of paper that I paid a lot of money for instead of the job I do. And if it wasn't for Jason, Doneth, or Andrea, or Scott, I think I would still really value that. But they're the ones that instilled in me that it's about the person, not the job. You can do whatever job you want. If you find purpose and passion in it, you're gonna kill it. So it was something I had to learn, and I still learn it every day, but I see the value in it more now than anything else.
That's incredible. Katie, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, that's definitely what I would say is personal development. When your employer wants to invest in you as a person and not just in how this can get the job done, I think it just really empowers you to grow and put a lot of value in that. So, immediately when I started, I started coming to the chamber events, and Rich encouraged me to do Outward Mindset and Leadership Salem, and all of that has been huge for me in being able to grow in this role and in this community. So.
What was your favorite thing that you learned in Leadership Salem last year? I know that's a tough one, but maybe one of the favorite takeaways.
Well, I think actually Leadership Salem, the biggest thing was just being able to see this community deeper. There was a lot of things I didn't know that was happening in this community, and different organizations that are doing big things, and even people in our group that were doing big things that I didn't know before that. So just being able to learn a lot more and see the opportunities that are happening in Salem was huge.
Absolutely. Ray, I'm going to jump over to you next, and then we'll work back over here.
Yeah, I keep thinking of movie references, so forgive me if I give more.
I love
movie
analogies,
references. Yes. I wanted to be in the room where it happens. I think, yep, there you go, Hamilton.
Is that Hamilton?
That is Hamilton.
Just saw that.
There it is. For me, part of my development is loving to see how the system works. And I felt and continue to feel that if I'm in the room, get to see how the people operate, get to see how strategies are made and how it's deployed, that helps benefit me in the way that I lead, and especially in my work, getting to lead the team who may not have that ability to have that access. And so it helps with just communication and translation that, hey, what the work that you're doing now is gonna benefit you for the greater vision of what we're striving towards. But me personally, getting to understand how the strategy works, and having mentorships has been really beneficial too, to be able to say, hey, I see you, come join me, let's talk about this, let's debrief. Hey, here's an opportunity where you can take the lessons that you've learned and implement it in this way to strengthen your own skill set. So it's been beneficial for me.
As far as mentorship goes, for the emerging leaders in this room, what advice would you give for those seeking mentorship, how to approach a mentor that's respectful of their time and their value, but also, takes that initiative to establish that relationship in their life?
Yeah, two quick things. One, a mentor, there's afar mentors as well. The joy of social media is that there's some folks out here who put some phenomenal work online that you can look to for advice of how to navigate certain things, especially if it's in the field that you want to strive towards or characteristics. If there are people in the community, especially in this room, it's like, hey, I really want to get to know them and what they do, buy them a coffee. I think that'll be dope. And sometimes it's even just a value exchange as well. So it's not all, while it'll be great for you to be poured into, we all have a skill set and strength as well that we can provide. And what does it look like to provide that same level of value to the person that is mentoring you, and see if there could be a joint relationship there?
Absolutely. I have something. Yeah, please, Gabby.
I think I heard Conrad Venti one time say it on Emerging Leaders that it's a great idea for a young professional to create your own board of directors or your own panel that you can go and run things off of. And ever since that day, there are 6 to 7 individuals, older, wiser, that I can bounce business idea off of, or even personal things sometimes. So I think that was the biggest piece of advice, is like create your own board of directors in your head.
That's so wise, and I can really respect the need for that, especially as an entrepreneur, when you're not working for a large organization, you don't have a board of advisors that you can lean on, having your own personal group that you curate, I can see the immense value in that. Jazmin, do you want to jump in with any insights?
Back to self-development. I think that's a really big thing. I think that collaboration is huge, and doing it amongst each other is awesome, but then taking it out, going to, let's just say, Arizona, or wherever it is, and being vulnerable around people you have no idea, I think is huge. There's a lot of growth that comes with that because, one, you're vulnerable. Two, you're collaborating with people and you're meeting people that you've never met before, but they have some really good gold nuggets. We all know what those are, right? All right, anyways. Those are huge. Those are really big. And I feel like that really makes us think big. I feel like we don't think big enough. And I want to empower each and every one of you guys to think big. Sometimes we don't think big because it scares us. If someone would ask me, Jazmin, are you scared? Yes, I am scared. I am scared every day. But guess what? I am scared and happy that I am walking through a vision of what I want rather than being stuck at a corporate job, hiding my talents, and just being stuck and being scared and wondering, what would that have looked like? What would that have been if I would have done that? So I think that I'd much rather live in fear knowing that I'm doing it and I have my resources and I'm making it happen. So
Yeah, I just love the energy, the fire that you bring. And one of my favorite things that a friend of mine always says is, to your point, doing it scared with fear in the passenger seat. It's not like it's something you have to overcome or get rid of, but it's like you're driving the car and then fear is sitting right next to you in the passenger seat and you're both along for the ride. So, Alex, I'll end with you here and then I'm actually going to circle back to you for the next question as well.
It's funny, I don't know if everyone kind of heard, but everyone on this panel just said personal development. They didn't say professional development. And I think that's a pretty key word to make sure you have right is, and make sure it's active personal development. I think about when I was working for my dad, the times where I appreciate his mentorship, but also the times he took to put me in different programs where someone else was providing me mentorship, someone else was teaching me sales strategies. Those are the things that really helped grow my experience and development. And they're not necessarily things I would have asked for, but they were things that he knew that I would have appreciated and needed.
That's awesome. And speaking of working for your dad, after 6 years of working at your dad's agency, you transitioned from employee to employer, and now you own your own State Farm insurance agency. How did your time as an employee shape how you lead as an employer now? And while you think on that for just a moment, just kind of set the preface for this next series of questions. I really believe all of you represent the diversity of the modern workforce. So I wanted to learn something specific from each of your lived experiences, so you'll have a tailored question for each of you. But Alex, what would you say is the one thing that you really took from that into your role as a leader now?
Yeah, I think something that I took and probably took for granted a little bit was obviously the mentorship piece. I really appreciated my dad and that role that he's had in my life, but beyond that, something that was practically taken into being an employer now is really being able to see how everyone's so different in the workplace. I remember when I was working for him, there's myself and another sales guy, and we both had very different needs when it came to management. My dad understood that, and at the time, I don't think I necessarily saw how he managed us differently, but as I look at my team now, I realize everyone needs a different way of management, whether it's listening, communicating, accountability. It's just being able to be aware of it and know who to talk to and how to talk to them.
Absolutely. Jazmin, you are in a hybrid situation where you work both as an agent at a real estate company, but you're also building your own business as a photographer and a brand strategist. How do you strike that balance between your roles as a team member and an independent business owner?
This is one of my favorite questions, balance. How do we balance work, businesses? I mean, just how do we balance it all? And I feel like there's this stigma between work and life. Right? It's black and white. It's pretty simple. It's really not. It's really not. And I think I've really, really learned there was a lot of pain. There's always tears that come when you learn, you know? And I don't try to separate it anymore. I let them blend. Both of my businesses, both in photography and in real estate, I let them blend. I don't create a divide. And I guess maybe you're wondering, well, then how do you have the mental capacity for that? I totally get it, and I think I celebrate. I celebrate my wins, both big and small, within both of my businesses, and I incorporate it in my everyday life, and more importantly, my family. That's my biggest thing. I involve them in what I'm doing. I get them excited, and they're proud of me just as much as I'm proud of them. You know, when people support me, they're supporting a family as well. So I think that's the biggest thing, is there's just this stigma on it being black and white, it being work, and there being life. And when you own a business or multiple, it just kind of blends, and the more you fight it, the more pain you feel, and the more it bleeds into your work, and then you don't see that outcome that you're wanting. So I really just let them blend and celebrate while it's happening.
I really appreciate your honest answer there, Jazz, and also that reminder to celebrate our wins, big and small. It's so important. And I know, Ray, you've been giving us great movie analogies all panel long. So I wanted to throw in one of my own. To your point, Jazmin, I think balance. I didn't even love writing balance as the word in this question, because I do think there is that pressure so many times for people to feel that they have to strike this perfect balance. But the way I think about balance is, when something is truly in balance, right, when something's at equilibrium, that means the forces are equal, so they cancel each other out, which means you're not really making progress or having any forward movement. So sometimes I feel, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but I feel sometimes that harmony is a better word to describe what we're trying to achieve than balance. And a recent podcast guest of ours, actually, with the analogy piece, she was talking about how if you're creating, like, it's like today we had a delicious lunch, right? We went through that line, you got to pick what went on your plate. And she was saying how if balance was the true goal, then every time, let's say you added some meat on your plate, you would have to get an equal amount of mashed potatoes, and then you'd have to equalize that with veggies, and pretty soon you have this topsy-heavy plate that doesn't really actually satisfy your cravings and your needs for today's meal. But instead, if you're thinking about your plate holistically and creating harmony from all the different flavors, how the au jus adds to the meat, and how the veggies help you get that fiber and feed your body well, it really creates that, I think, that more realistic standard of what we're really trying to achieve. So
That's right. Don't fight it. Just feel it. Sometimes we try to control everything. You guys, we're not in control. We're not in control. You got to just feel it. Some things, you're just hands up, here we go. And, it ends up working out,
I love that. Thank you so
That's
much
right.
for that
Jesus,
reminder.
take the wheel. That's right. Jesus, take the wheel.
Katie, you are in a leadership role in construction, which is traditionally a male-dominated field. What encouragement would you give to both employers and employees to help more underrepresented candidates break into similar fields where the workforce is traditionally homogenous?
Yeah, so I love that. I get that a lot from people because what am I doing in this role? But I've never looked at myself as different in the organization or in the role that I do. I've just looked at the skills that I have and what I can bring to the table. And that really comes from the relationship also with the organization. Like with Rich and Nate, I started as marketing with them, and they saw the potential that I had to be able to do project engineer and do project management and what that path would look like. And they planted that seed. They saw the skills I had. And so just being able to focus on skills and really is how you can find those people. And anyone can do any of the skills that they want to do. You can learn what you want to learn. If you can find people who have drive and want to learn, then that's all that they really need, and you can show them the rest.
Absolutely. I think that's so cool that you have bosses and leadership that really sees your potential and is willing to push you a little outside of your comfort zone to pursue that. That's incredible. Gabby, you are also in a unique position where you're on a leadership track at the firm that you work for to become a part owner someday. How important is the opportunity for ownership in choosing the company you work for and stay with? And what are other ways you feel employers in this room can foster their employees' entrepreneurial spirit, even if equity is not on the table?
I think this question's interesting. I find it fun and exciting to look at, the years ahead and what lies ahead. But I also think it can be a setback if you do that too much. I'm more focused on the here and now and what I can learn from those kind of paving the path ahead of me than looking down the road. I think that can cause comparison, especially for people our age. So I'm really trying to focus on the here and now. How can I be humbled now so that when I do get there, that I'm feeding the next people behind me, like the people that are ahead of me currently. What was the second part of the question?
How do you feel employers can foster that entrepreneurial spirit on their team, even if equity isn't an option?
Yeah, Jason has really made it a point to make sure that I'm not micromanaged, that I'm really have the freedom to do the things that really fuel my fire. And a lot of that is the personal development, the Emerging Leaders program, that kind of thing. And they're just a sounding board. If I ever need anything, it's a yes, of course, how can I help you mentality. It's never a, maybe you shouldn't do that. It's go and do it, learn why you're saying yes to it or why you need to say no next time kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that perspective of, I always tell my team members too, I would rather you, what is that thing, ask for grace than permission and fail faster. And as long as you can come back and with some data points and share, like, this is what we learned and how we're going to approach this a little bit differently, I think it creates a faster learning environment. So I'm glad to see that is true too at the firm that you work for. And then Ray, you are multi-passionate and super involved in many organizations outside of work, from youth sports coaching to serving on nonprofit boards to DEI consulting and coaching. How do you choose what to invest your time in and prioritize when there's an abundance of things that you are excited about? And what wisdom would you share with employees and employers on getting involved in your community outside of work?
Whew.
I know it was a mouthful. If you need me to repeat, I can.
I mean, no, it's a mouthful for me to even participate in. But I do think about the blend part of it, of life. I mean, this is who I am. This is what I'm excited for. I originally didn't have a movie reference, but now I do. All right.
Love it. Let's keep it going.
It's not a movie, actually. Loki season 2. Loki's like really big on it being burdened with a glorious purpose. And I hope y'all get a chance to watch it. But back in the day, my mom would say, hey, if you see a need, fill it. And for me, with 3 kids, being invested in this community, seeing how wonderful the arms that we wrap around our community to help support it to thrive is part of, I guess, my glorious purpose, to identify how can I be another hand and a voice to help support that, especially because I have kids. They're growing up in this community, and I just want to have a hand in supporting that too, for them and for their classmates and other next generation leaders as well. What to say yes and no to is a constant discussion at our household, but if my kids are involved, if it's practicing building bridges in the community, and if it is developing next generational leaders, I will find a way to be engaged. And that is, any advice that I have essentially ties to what's already been said. If you have a purpose, if you have a passion and a vision, go forward and try to blend it with what you're already doing, and speak up about it, because there's probably gonna be somebody else who also shares that same vision, or can be an access gateway to say, yeah, I know a way to get you in. Let's find a way to make that work.
Absolutely. And I like that you prioritize, because family is like one of your big values, that you use that as a filter to distinguish which opportunities are going to be the best investment of your time. That's great advice. All right, we're to the last 2 pre-prepared questions, but we are going to have a few minutes for audience Q&A at the end, so this is a good time to start marinating on any ideas or questions that you have for our talented panelists today. This next one is kind of more open-ended, but I think especially a lot of the employers in this room may be interested to know, what is the most underrated thing an employer can do to attract or retain emerging leaders like yourself in 2024 and beyond? Bonus points if you can share something specific that may not have been mentioned already.
I think bringing young leaders to the table sooner. So, they don't have to be in a management role, they don't have to be an executive or an owner, but asking them the questions. There's multiple times where Rich will come in and sit on my couch and say, where do you see us in 10 years? And just asking my opinion. What do I see? What direction do I want to see the company going? Feeling that your opinion is valued in the actual future of the company. And I think if you can get the young leaders more involved in your organization in those discussions, then they're going to be more engaged and they're going to be more committed to your company.
That's such a great piece of wisdom, I think, and I can see on both sides of the table how just even having your insights heard, and especially if you've seen something implemented from what you've shared, how that can really make you feel like the work you're contributing is meaningful. That's awesome. Anyone else have something they want to jump in?
I think on that, being able to listen to your people and to have a voice in that future, it empowers. I think that's the big thing. It really does empower that other individual and makes them feel part of, just like you said, the future. I'm just going to be really raw because that's just who I am. I started I've always had an entrepreneur mindset, but I really started this journey actively in 2023. And starting my own business. I was in the corporate world. That was my vision. That was what success was. And really had it painted to me a picture that wasn't success for me. That's not where I was supposed to be at. And I think the biggest opportunity that a company has is showing empathy. Listen to your people. I think it's so underrated. You just listen. That doesn't mean you need to activate on what they want. I want a fur rug and this, that. There's a budget. There's a parameter within your own management. But I think a big thing is just listen. That other person just wants to be heard and shown that they're cared for, that their words were digested. And I think it's, like I said, it's super underrated. It's a huge opportunity that I see. Because a lot of times they don't even need the action. They just wanted to be heard. They wanted that open door policy. They didn't want to be heard and then have backlash. They just wanted to be heard. So that's the biggest thing that is on my heart about that.
When it comes to opportunities for listening, do you like when employers offer structured listening moments, such as one-on-ones that are regular, or do you more like it as a as-needed approach?
Most of the time, your people are, we're all giant kids, you guys. We're all giant kids. I don't care how old you are. We're all just these kids in these adult bodies, okay? And a lot of times, we show it ourselves. Your people already show that maybe they're drained. Maybe they're not happy. Maybe it's just right in front of you, and what are you doing? You're looking out. Look what's right in front of you. I think that's huge. And whether that's as a group setting, don't be that person who's over here, okay, so we're getting everybody together because that one person is maybe wearing flip-flops every day, and I don't know why she's wearing flip-flops, and then you're like, as a whole, you guys, just want a reminder, we're not gonna wear flip-flops every day. No, go to the person. Go to the person. Don't make it a whole thing. It makes more of an impact, and at the end of the day, as leaders, that's what we want to do. We want to make an impact. And so I think you kind of just have to gauge the situation. And another part of the empowerment is you got to stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. We hired these specific people because they had these talents. They had something that we didn't have to bring to the business. And sometimes as higher leaders, we want to get in and we want to fix things, and guess what it does to that person? Brings them down. That empowerment down. And sometimes we don't even mean to. I'm not trying to look at leaders over here saying, hey, stop doing what you're doing. I know you're intentionally trying to hurt these people. Sometimes you don't even realize it's happening. But when you start to get in other people's lanes, when you have them in those specific lanes for a reason, it really devalues that person. And then our heads spin, and then they're not performing. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't look good on your business.
That's a great reminder. Thank you so much, Jazmin. We have about a minute before actually 30 seconds before we open up for audience Q&A. Does anyone have one last thought on that question that they want to add before we open it up to the rest of the audience? Yes.
One quick thing I would add is also just create change. Change can mean like a challenge, but at the same time, that's what 40 and unders are looking for. They want that personal development. They want that change. Because it means they're going to grow in some way, whether it's small or big. It's just going to continue encouraging that growth.
Yeah, that's a great reminder to embrace change as a friend. All right. Does anyone in the audience feel brave and have a question that they would like to ask our panel? Yes.
Hi, Andrea Doneth from Doneth and Sturdivant Wealth Advisors. Gabby up there is our crew. This question's for Jazz, but open to you guys. You mentioned a lot about listening. And you also talked about how, like, you know, maybe I want a fur rug and it's not in the budget. When an employer listens and say that just can't happen, what's a good way to show from an employer perspective that we are listening, your voice is heard, but it's not gonna happen?
For sure, that's a really good one. One, I think showing empathy, that when they're coming to you with frustration, feeling defeated, you know, whatever it is, usually, you know, it's not a really happy thing. And I think showing the empathy, one, not just sitting there saying, okay, so what do you want to talk about? It's on my calendar. You know, show some empathy that you care, because at the end of the day, you do care because they're on your team for a reason. But I think follow-up. I think follow-up is a really big thing, because some things just can't be changed. The budget, we're on a freeze hire, or we're, you know, whatever it is. I mean, I get it. But I think just follow-up, checking in, because then at the end of the day, that would make me feel like, okay, you know, she heard me. And she's doing what she can do, even though she wasn't able to make that purchase or make that other person on the team happen, or whatever it is. So I think there's a lot of power behind follow-up in any business, honestly. There's a lot of magic behind follow-up.
I'm so glad you asked that question. I was actually thinking it, so you read my mind there. And I wanted to add something to what you just shared, Jazmin, about even if something's not able to be changed, like maybe the budget doesn't allow, or there's not, you know, the room to hire for someone else. Sometimes I think, and I'm speaking more from the employer side now, sometimes I think that we assume solutions to problems, and we think that the solution that our employees want is the same as what we would do to solve a problem, when in reality, they may think of something completely creative outside of your parameters that can fix that, or it's what they want is actually so much more realistic to achieve than what you have made it out to be. And a great example of that recently is like my producer, you know, she felt a little overwhelmed by the content output or content schedule that we were on during the holiday season, and you know, she wanted to see what we could offload from her plate. And right now, we're not able to instantly hire a new full-time employee to take over some of those tasks. But I asked her to create an audit of all of the repetitive tasks that she feels is sucking up the most time in her business that doesn't really require her unique brain, her strategy input on. And what we realized was so many of those tasks that were really eating away at her time and adding to her stress were things that could be automated through AI tools, things that we could create automations and workflows around that wouldn't even require a human necessarily to step into that role, but could make a big difference in you know, how at peace she felt in that role. So that's just another thing I wanted to add as a tactical. Yes. Is there a mic? Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead first, and then I'll call on you next. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Okay. It's kind of a two-part. First, which is I think you said you're all millennials. So from one of you, which do you think is the stereotype of the millennial employee that is the least fair and that you're tired of overcoming? And then which one there actually might be a little truth to?
I think before someone on the panel answers, I just want to make a note that I think millennials has become this like, all-encompassing term for younger generations that oftentimes when people are talking about youth in their early 20s or teenagers today, they're still referring to them as millennials, but those are actually not millennials, they're Gen Z or Gen Alpha. And so I think so I think that's where
I see them too.
yeah, so I think that's where some of the confusion may lie too, is that millennials has become this all-encompassing term for younger generations, when in reality, I think the exact parameters to be a millennial, you have to be born between like 1984
To 96.
to 96. So like the oldest millennials are actually in their 40s already. So they're not actually the teenagers you see running around. Okay, anyways, I digress.
I think one that's like can be automatically said is not true is that they're lazy. I think that's a pretty commonly said thing, is like, oh, they just don't want to work. And it's like, yes, there's some people that don't want to work. That's all generations though. And then the one that maybe has a hint of truth is that we do like to have fun more than work. And so I think, like, yeah.
There's a lot of truth there,
Yeah,
not a
you
hint of
gotta
truth.
combine
We can
the
still
two.
make it productive.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that one has probably the most hint of truth from what I'd say.
I would say too that I think people often, for millennials in particular, but feel free to, to say something different if you guys don't agree. I think a lot of employers try to create amenities that attract millennials, things like, and I don't know if this is a spin-off of like big tech and like, the Silicon Valley or whatnot, but things like, oh, we have like a cool employee break room with like a ping pong table, and we have free coffee on drip, and we have, things that sure can make a workplace more enticing, but I think where they miss the mark, where employers often miss the mark, is millennials, and especially generations younger than millennials too, really value experiences, I think, above all. And so if you can really kind of shift your approach and not always investing in physical amenities, but rather thinking about what experiences can I create for my team members, I think that there's a lot of value to be added there.
This one just kind of popped in my head back to what Alex was saying, they call us lazy, or having fun, sorry. And I'm like, love fun. But sometimes, having like a pizza party is like so fun for sure, like, cause you did so good, like you've been working so hard, here's a pizza party. But sometimes words actually, it stings a little bit more in a good way. And maybe being pulled aside and saying, hey, you're killing it. Like, you're working so hard. And I think words is a really big thing. It's a big thing to me. And just with other businesses that I've been a part of, sometimes the pizza party doesn't always resonate. It doesn't, I don't always see, like, why is there a pizza party? Okay, cool, great. I guess we were hungry. I'm on a diet. Whatever it is, So I think that's a big thing, is the power of words is huge, and the lack thereof is also huge.
Absolutely. And that kind of speaks to the 5 love languages too. I'm sure most of us have heard of that, but like not everyone receives love the same. And so like Jazmin said, maybe it is words of affirmation from people. For some, it's acts of service, physical, well, in the workplace, probably not physical touch, but gifts. You know what I'm saying?
Share.
But massage share. There you go. Maybe that's something that you throw in.
Good old high five.
Great book, though. Great book. Yes, Ray, were you going to say something? Oh, okay. Go for it. Yeah.
Samuel Matthias with Youth with a Mission and Salem Ropes course. Bobby Clinton came out with the leadership emergence theory a long time ago through Harvard studies, and still proves to be true that leaders most effectively are in their 60s and 70s. So I would love to hear what you're proactively doing to make 60 and 70-year-olds really effective in the last season of their life in a fastly changing environment.
It's a really great question, very deep. Does anyone have something they want to add?
Is that like from an employer's perspective, you're saying? Or from like a younger generation?
What are you doing to make 60s and 70s-year-olds effective?
I feel like it's kind of like what Ray shared earlier, is the empathy piece. I think it's finding out what the 60 and 70-year-olds want. From an employer's perspective, like what do you need to get you to that retirement phase, but also just from like a person of character perspective of like, how do I care for those generations that have already invested so much into me and my family? And so that's kind of how I think of that question.
I think also just actively showing, like, I'm here to learn. Like, I'm not closed off. I do bring a lot to the table, even though I'm young. But it also takes that other piece, the other side of the other individual saying, I do value and I'm listening to what you have to say. And I just think having that mentality of I'm here to learn and I'm here to do what it takes to help your next stage of life be successful. So yeah.
To piggyback on that, I'm raising my hand. I'm raising my hand, and therefore to tell you, hey, put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. And I get it. This is your baby. This is everything you've worked for. Sweat, blood, and tears have gone into this. But I'm raising my hand. I'm hungry. I want to learn. You 60 and 7-year-olds, you guys have a lot of wisdom. You have so much that you've created, you've learned through the trials. I want some knowledge. I'm here. Like, absorb into me. I'm ready to go, So I think with that, that 60 and 70-year-old or, whoever that demographic is, you got to be able to let go, though. You got to let go, and that's when change kind of happens, and either we love it or we don't love it. But I think that's where a lot of power comes from, is if you are willing to let go and see that this young buck wants it and is invested in it. I think that's some magic right there. That's some chemistry. That's some chemistry.
Thank you so much. This is all we have time for today. Thank you for being an amazing audience, and thank you again to my panelists for their inspiring answers.
This works. Okay, so again, thank you, Ellen, for doing a fantastic job moderating, and thank you to all our panelists. Stay up here for a moment. Thank you to all of our panelists for being here and for being vulnerable enough to sit up here and provide the answers. Again, we want to thank Blanchette Catholic School Choir for their performance today. Thank you to Allied Video, Capital Community Media, and the Salem Convention Center staff. Why would I trip up on my own company's name? To our Salem Chamber ambassadors in the Navy logoed jackets, thank you for your hospitality and greeting us at all of the Chamber events. Daryl Knox and the team at Aldrich, thank you for your strategic support of the Salem Chamber. Aldrich also has some logoed items in the back you're free to take. Thank you to the entire team at Hagen Hamilton Insurance, the John family, Chris McLaren, Chad Neal, Matt Houston, and TJ Sullivan. Okay. Here's the kind of church announcements part. I love this part. Several upcoming events to take notice of. Everything can be found on the website at salemchamber.org on the event calendar. But if there's one thing you hear me say today, just one, because I've blabbered a little bit, next month's Forum Speaker Series luncheon, you want to be there. First of all, we'll have a special registration portal opening up this Wednesday, a month in advance. I wonder why. Due to the unique circumstances of this program and guest. We're not permitted to announce the name of our featured guest, but you will know them as a high-ranking member of Oregon's executive branch. If you don't know what the executive branch is, come ask me afterwards. So again, registration for next month's Chamber Forum opens up on Wednesday of this week. You will want to be here early on January 8th, right? Did I get that right? January 8th at 11:30. You will want to be here early for that. This is the big one. Second, Chamber Businesswomen. Next event is Tuesday, December 19th at 11:45 at Roth's West Salem. Be doing ornament making with Rebecca Brisbane of Becca Makes Buttons. She's awesome. I met her at Greeters. Friday, January 19th, we host Safe Agribusiness Banquet presented by KeyBank with featured keynote Larry George, Oregon's premier filbert farmer. We anticipate another sold-out event upstairs at the Salem Convention Center right here. There are postcards on your tables for more information, and tickets are available now, again, at salemchamber.org. Now, the last thing we have to do today is close with our flower centerpiece giveaway. Where's it at? Right here. Okay, so each month, a flower centerpiece is provided by our partners at Roth's Fresh Markets, and we draw a name from the attendees to go home with this beautiful, beautiful bouquet. And the winner, Jessica Murfin, Western Oregon University, Salem campus. Host of Greeters. With that, we will present Jessica with the flowers. The rest of you continue on in making merry and enjoy the season of holidays. Thank you.